Welcome to a very impromptu live chat about Sweet Valley High. If you're here for the babysitter, I've had to postpone it for this week just because poor Cynthia, our guest, our very special guest, is not feeling very well. So I've postponed this chat to next week because Cynthia really wanted to come on and talk to us about it. So if you're here for this, that'll be next week. But today, please stay with us because we're going to be chatting about our memories of Sweet Valley High. So I'm going to add Shelly in, the two Shellys, and we'll have a little about the babysitter. I do appreciate it, and I know Cynthia does as well. So I've just added Shelly in. Hopefully she'll appear. Yeah, Karen, Sweet Valley, hi. Hi Shelly, hello. You okay?
How's it going?
I'm all right. Are you?
I can't see you. I can't see your picture, but I can hear you.
Oh, there's a bit of a glitch on Instagram. I don't know what's going on. I can see you perfect, but for some reason people can't see
As
me.
long as you can see me and I can see you, we're good. Yeah, we're good. We're good. It's all good.
So I was just saying, obviously I've had to postpone the babysitter chat till next week because poor Cynthia's not feeling very well. So we've been chatting about Sweet Valley this week because you put up a video saying you want to reread them this year. So we was kind of having a little chat about it. So I thought, why not? Let's have a little chat about our memories of Sweet
Oh,
Valley.
it's so amazing. And I just thought, it was last year I was thinking I went off the grid for a wee while and sometimes social media you just have to have a break, especially when things are going on in your life.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, what can I do this year that will just inspire pure comfort. And I thought, I'm going to reread my Sweet Valley High collection. I've been saying I'm going to do it for years, and it's got to the point now where it's almost rebuilt to, being full. I've almost got every single Sweet Valley University. I'm still building up the Sweet Valley High ones.
Wow.
But I was thinking, if I'm going to read one a month, I've got plenty of time to get the ones that I still have to fill in my collection, so it's all good.
Oh.
And I thought, who might like to join me on that? And I was like, oh, Shelly. So thank you so much I had a feeling, because I know that we've spoken about Sweet Valley High before, and I had a feeling you might be up for that. And I just think it's so important sometimes for the soul just to go back to things that are familiar to you. And for me, that's all I'm kind of going to do this year, amongst some new books that are coming out for other authors that I've pre-ordered and things. Aside from that, I think it's just going to be comfort reads this year for me, so I'm dead excited.
Yeah.
But especially about this.
Oh, yeah, but it is such a comfort, isn't it? Like, this is what I find with Point Horror, and like other book collections that I remember from my teen years. Like, it's just such a comfort to read these books and just like relive them over again, maybe with older eyes, so we like roll our eyes at the boys in them, or what the girls do, but just still enjoy them for the nostalgia. And I kind of find, like, sometimes when I'm reading a point horror, like, I think, oh, I don't remember anything about this one, and then all of a sudden as I'm reading it comes back to me as I'm reading. I'm like, oh yeah, I remember this one. Or like with the babysitter too, like I just, for some reason, that's etched on my memory who the reveal is in that book, so I don't know why it's just stayed with me for all these years. So I just remember. Yeah.
It's so weird. I remember, so we read The Babysitter last year, didn't we? I think it was around about the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I always remembered Jenny Jeffers. I always remembered her name. Like, she was, like, I think The Babysitter may have been the very first point horror book I ever read. And I was like, I've definitely read the second one and the third one, but I can't remember anything about the second one. I've not finished it yet. So it was quite good that you postponed your chat tonight, because I was like, because I genuinely, I'm like, I can't remember who the killer is in this one. I was like, is it the dodgy boyfriend? I'm not sure. And I was like, so I'm quite glad that that's postponed. And can I also just say, if Cynthia's watching this at some point, please, I hope you get better soon.
Get better soon, Cynthia.
And look forward to seeing you the next one that you're doing.
Yeah, definitely. We've got a few people who've joined us, Laura, Melina, Stargazer, Caroline. Oh, it's so nice. And
Oh, hi, Melina. Hi, Caroline.
and Karen said, "Sweet Valley Book Club, please."
Right, I think it's, it's people are asking. We can't give people what they want.
We might have to. Oh dear. Yeah, Miss Boo Boo's put, hello, just went to my dad's and grabbed my Sweet Valley and Sweet Valley University books. Yay! We've inspired people.
Oh,
Jay,
it's so good, isn't it? Just that feeling of, I don't know, I feel like you always have such a dubious youth, don't you? A dubious youth. But I think the good parts of your youth, certainly if you're a
yeah,
reader, are always the books that you read. And for me, it was like Sweet Valley High was like what got me really into books when I was just going. It was actually Sweet Valley Twins.
yeah,
Sweet Valley Twins, and when I was 6 and 7 years old, I was reading them. And then I literally was reading them as I was growing up. Sweet Valley High, Sweet Valley University,
yeah.
at the age that they were in the books as well. It's so cool.
I was just holding up some Sweet Valley Twins that I have got some of those. Which
Yeah,
funny
I've
enough,
got a couple of them too,
I've
but I've not got as many. I've only got a handful of them, not as many as the
yeah,
others.
I've not read many of the Sweet Valley Twins, so I don't remember those quite as much. But yeah, I've got a few of those. But there's just so many of these books. There's so many.
I know,
So,
but don't you think it was quite cool with Sweet Valley High because it was the same with Point Horror. They were producing like Sweet Valley High. I was looking it up actually. I think they were bringing out like a book a week at one point.
wow.
It was like I was like that's pretty fast work for Francine Pascal. But then she was. I know there was somebody else that was ghostwriting as well for her.
Yeah,
Um, So I think, like, I mean, that'd be quite a tall order for anyone to be producing work at that speed. So they probably would have had to
definitely.
bring other people in. But I think Point Horror was that like once a month they were bringing a book out.
I'm not entirely sure. They brought them out in like groups over here in the UK. So I think like the first set was like 10 books that came out. Because
Okay.
basically what happened with those was obviously they were published in the US and then a box of those books got shipped over to the UK. So the editor there, the lovely Anne Finnis, she's a wonderful lady. She basically sifted through the box and picked the ones that looked interesting and kind of published them all under this Point Horror banner to yeah, like in groups as far as I'm aware. But yeah, so that's why we got some of the books, Point Horror books, and then some not some of the oh, I can't speak tonight. That's why we got that's why we got some of the books but not others that were published in the US because she was just like handpicking them out of the box basically to publish over here. So yeah. So
Oh, it's amazing. And
interesting.
I knew that you would know about that, so I'm not going to ask.
So only because I stalk people and I'm like, tell me. So I'm really interested in all this like information and
It's
trying to.
stalking for research purposes.
Yeah, that's
Sorry.
it. Yeah, and I always think like it's like Grady Hendrix said to me once. He said, it's about preserving the history and like the journey of the book, and I was like, yeah, that's so true. Like it is kind of like preserving the history and finding out these little facts, and things like that. So that's kind of how I look at it now.
Yeah, it's a definite.
Yeah.
I'm going to put my glasses on because I can see a comment coming up and I'm trying to straighten read it. So
Well,
hold on 2 seconds.
I just
Oh, that's
saw
better, much better.
I just saw Jason Dunbar said, "Aye, why are you a cartoon cat?" But I was like, "Is there a cat behind me?" Because sometimes like the cat comes in, but
Oh, my cats are out there in the hall, but if they start hanging off the door, I'll have to, because they do that sometimes, I'll have to let them in and they might start wandering about on the
oh,
table.
no worries. And Stargazer said, "Interested to hear about it. I remember the books everywhere in the 80s and early 90s." Yeah. And
Yeah, no.
Sharon put, lovely to see you all. Not sure these are my thing, but I wanted to support. Thank you, Sharon.
Oh, thanks, Sharon. That's lovely.
And Larissa put, never read any, but watched the show and still remember the theme tune all these years later,
Oh, it's
as always.
it's one of those ones that gets stuck in your head, isn't it, as
Yeah,
well?
yeah, Larissa said pops in her head at random moments. Yeah, definitely. What was the comment you saw? Because I'm a little bit behind.
From Karen's, it says, yeah, I used to go to WH Smith every other weekend to get a new book, and
Oh,
I think that I went to my husband earlier, and I was like, Fraser, I was like, I says, help me out year, I said, what did W.H. Smith used to be called? This is how I am like getting so old. And I was like, he's like, John Menzies. And I was like, oh, so it was. It was John Menzies.
Oh.
So it was John, when I was 7, I was still living in Livingston, and we moved to Montrose when I was 7 until I was 17. But in Livingston at the time, they had like an indoor shopping centre where there was a John Menzies, and that's where every single week we would go in, and I'd get my pocket money and I would always buy a Sweet Valley Twins book. And then that just progressed. Once I moved to Montrose, they had this like little specialised it was like a little independent bookstore. I think it's still there.
Oh, love
And
that.
I've still got, like, my friend gave me some of her old Sweet Valley books, and she's got like the little stickers on them which say Henry Hogg, and it's got the address and little gold foil on the back.
Oh.
She kept them in such pristine condition, and like they still look brand new. So that was like my joy at the weekends. I would go to this bookstore, or I would go to the library. And I'm sure at one point I must have had library books. I think that I not intentionally didn't take back, but I think it got to the point where they've been in my house so long that I've forgotten about them, and I was like, I can't ever take these back because I'll have to go now to take them. I have to tell mum and dad, and they'll be so mad at me. So I think I still maybe have a couple.
So if you're watching the library that Shelley used to go to,
Yeah, hopefully they won't
oh
remember my
dear.
face now. Long gone.
Well, Melina put, I always wanted to read more of them as a team, but my local library only had a few and wouldn't order any more. I mean, yeah, I found
Aww.
that, yeah, with our library, because obviously I used to buy the point horrors, but anything else I kind of used to go to the library to get. So I used to get a lot of the Sweet Valley from the library, but there was only selected titles there. And yeah, once you'd read them, that was kind of it. They wouldn't get any more in. So I always remember
Yeah.
getting Sweet Valley, like Burley Doherty books. Don't know whether you've read any. I think that's how you say a name. You know what I'm like with names. And obviously Judy Blume books.
Oh, Judy
Used to read.
Blume. I
Yeah.
loved Deanie was the first book one of the first books I ever remember reading in high school. And I remember there's like the scene in the closet. And I remember when I was reading it and I was like looking about, making sure my mum and dad weren't in, because they'd be like, I don't know if that's appropriate reading material. But I remember like feeling quite cool because I was reading this book that was a bit risque. I mean, nothing compared to what you would read now, of course, but
Yeah.
I never, it always stayed with me, and I've got some Judy Blume books up there and in my bookshelf, and I'm also going to reread them this year because I haven't read Deanie since I was a teenager,
Yeah.
and I absolutely adored that book so much. I can't wait to read that as well.
It's so funny because I always remember, I don't know whether it was the same for you with Judy Blume, like everyone used to talk about Forever. That was the book, like, it was banned in school, like, you can't read this smut and all that. And like, always remember me and my friends had got like this like counterfeit copy that we'd share between us and like giggling away and watching it. And we actually got it confiscated by the deputy head. Yeah, she took it off us. But
Oh, that you're so bad, Shelley.
I know, but needs must. We had to see what it was all
Indeed,
about. And
absolutely.
then I reread it a few years ago now, and I was like, I'm going to reread this book that caused all this controversy back in the day. But I was like, oh dear, like I don't know whether you remember, but yeah, not someone, but something called Ralph in there. It was yeah. It was very interesting to read it as an adult anyway.
Do you know, I'm actually trying to remember. I don't think I ever read Forever. I think I only read Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret,
Yeah.
Blubber, and Deanie. I think that was the only 3 that I read. So I need to
Oh,
actually get the other ones to read them because
yeah.
I was like, I lived in a small town in Scotland called Montrose, and
Mm.
it was like just on the seaside, but literally it was a tiny library, and it was the one independent bookstore that only got like a very select amount of books. So I basically read every single young adult book that was in there, but there wasn't a great selection, and it was the same in the library. So I think they only had certain ones,
Yeah.
and I certainly didn't. Deanie was definitely one of the ones I would have taken out the library or bought, because that would not have been one that would have been on a school approved list, I don't think. And certainly Forever wouldn't have been from what you've just said. So you've now made me really want to go and read that. I'm so going to go and get that.
Oh, I'd love to hear what you think. Like,
I'll tell you.
just reading it as an adult is a very different experience from being a teenage girl reading it, definitely.
Definitely. And you know, I think that back in the day, you know, when we were younger and everything as well, you feel as if like teenagers could have really probably been helped out more if they were able to read books that that could relate to their life, you know, rather than these make-believe worlds where, you know, it's all sunshine and roses. And I think that that's one of the good things about nowadays is, you know, I bet there's a lot of teenagers out there getting real comfort in books because they're, you know, experience the same sort of things as the teenagers that they're writing about nowadays. So,
definitely.
But I think that I'm fully prepared going into this reread of Sweet Valley High. Like, I've actually read Double Love. I read it like last week, and it was like, it was 180 pages. You can read it in a few days, same as you do with Point Horrors. And I always remember Jessica being so bad, but she's absolutely awful. Like, she's just a horror. Just, I can't wait to speak to you about it, actually. But then you've got like Elizabeth on the other side, who's almost too good as well. Like, she's like, you know, they really need that balance in between. And I think it's always funny because when you're reading these kind of books that we read as teenagers, especially if it's a series about characters, it amazes me how, you know, the character art does not change much. They just still keep doing the same terrible things. Then they say sorry at the end, and then they just go and do the same thing again in the next book. So I think it's going to be quite comical to read these books again.
And it's just such a simple formula, but it just works so well, doesn't it?
Yes.
That's the thing. Yeah, definitely.
Definitely.
Matthew Stargazer said, is there a third Jenny Jeffers book? Yes, there is, and a fourth one.
And a fourth one, I know.
The fourth one, it goes off the rails. Caroline said, "We should."
Remember the fourth one being mental.
It's crazy, honestly. I actually can't wait till we do that book because we're just gonna. I think the whole chat we're just gonna be like, what? Caroline said, "Wish we could all meet up at the." Now I never say this right. Is it the Dairy Burger? I never say it right.
Dairy Burger, yeah.
Oh, I said it right. Yay!
Yeah, that's that was like the cool place to hang out in Sweet Valley, wasn't it?
Yeah,
that would be cool.
Sharon Weir said, I definitely did not just go and buy a few more today to add to my collection. Yay!
Respect!
We're bad for the bank balance. Kelly said, I can't recall if I read one, but I did love the show. So so the TV show, like for me, that I'll be honest, the TV show was what introduced me to Sweet Valley because I didn't really know much about the books before that because obviously I was reading Judy Blume and as I said, Burley Doherty and stuff like that. So I saw the TV series with that catchy theme tune which you can never get out of your head, and I was just hooked and I was like, I need to go and hunt the books down. So that's what got me into it, really. What was your experience with the TV show?
So with the TV show, not a word of a lie, I was I had no idea that it was coming out, and I had obviously been a massive Sweet Valley High since I was 7. And I remember it was on like Saturday morning telly, and I remember being up and I put the TV on, and like it just came on. I was like, I'm like pinching myself, thinking, am I seeing this? Is this actually real? And then that was me like every Saturday morning watching it.
Yeah.
I was like, I can't believe they've made it into a TV show. But I think they went for like 4 seasons. But I remember like as soon as it came out on DVD, I bought the first season so I could have it to keep. Yeah. And I mean, it's car crash TV. It was absolutely terrible. But it was like so bad. It was good. It's like I just had to keep watching. You know. But I did love it, and I wish they'd brought all the other seasons out on DVD because unfortunately you couldn't get any more. But like when you said last night, you can get them all on YouTube. Yeah. And I was like, shut up.
And you was like, what? Like, so I sent you the link, didn't I? But
I know I've subscribed to the channel and everything. So I'm
Yeah.
definitely going to watch the first episode this week after reading the book, because I always I remember trying to reread my books at the time that the episodes were
Mm,
coming out, and I was
mm.
finding the book that went along with the episode and then seeing how close it was. Oh, I'm such a geek. I know I'm such a geek.
I
But
love
like
that. I
this
love
was just
it.
me. Oh, it's just me in a nutshell, and I'm still geeking out at 45. It's like, yeah, I'm still
Oh,
gonna do that forevermore.
no, I love
Love it.
that. I
It's
think
so good.
I made a note earlier. So apparently there was 88 episodes altogether over the 4 seasons, and it ran between 94 and 97. So I would say 94. That's probably when I saw the TV show, and then I went to hunt down the books after that. And I was just so like I was in love with the twins. Like I just loved them. They were just awesome. Like I just wanted to be them.
So
Um,
I remember just wanting to be them so much as well. And
yeah.
I remember then, did you ever watch Dawson's Creek?
Yes. Yeah. Love
And
Dawson's Creek.
that was like my first ever sort of kind of teen show, I think, that
Yeah.
I really got involved in. And I remember I think it was in season 2, and Jen had a long lost sister, and it was
Yeah.
one of the Sweet Valley twins. And I was like, oh, it's, was it Cynthia Daniels? Cynthia Daniels. I was like, oh. And I was like, and then I also, did you ever watch this film? It's a really dark film with Leonardo DiCaprio called The
Oh,
Basketball Diaries.
oh yeah. That's a blast from the past.
So I remember watching that as a teenager with my brother, and my brother, I was like, oh yeah, a nice film about basketball. And I was like, oh, it was so dark, and it just made you feel like, oh, I just need to go and watch something happy after
Yeah.
this. And the twins were in that,
Yeah.
both of them were in that.
Oh, were they both in it?
Yeah, they were both.
Oh,
It was.
right.
If I seem to remember, it was not a great scene that they were in, and I was a bit like, oh,
Oh. Oh.
that's Jessica and Elizabeth Mayfield.
Oh,
No.
it's the way you thought, oh, no, like a nice little film about
Yeah,
basketball.
that was what I thought. Yeah, it was. I thought the same thing. I remember when this is going off the beaten track a wee bit, but I'll just you've reminded me of something. So,
Yeah.
an ex-boyfriend in the past has said to me, "Oh, the whole group of us are going to see The Ring," and I was like, "Oh, The Ring? I've never heard of that." And we were sitting in the cinema, and the opening scene obviously comes on, and it's like, and I turned to him and I was like, "Is this a horror movie?" And he's like, yeah. And I was like, all right. I thought it was like about somebody getting engaged. And I was like, I thought I was going to see like a romance film. And then I was basically petrified for about 3 months afterwards. So I really need to learn to do my homework, I think, you know.
Oh, that sounds like this is really going off topic now, but my sister, bless her, like, and there's a reason why she wouldn't know this. Like, so she went to see 50 Shades of Grey, right? She didn't know what it was about. She thought it was a horror film, right? So her and a friend went to see it and quite quickly realised it was, well, it could be a horror film, but they quite quickly realised it wasn't a horror film. And I'll never forget when she told me, like, I was like, oh, bless her. And I said, well, did you
Oh,
leave? And
that's
she's
so
like, nah,
sweet.
I just stayed. But she wouldn't know what 50 Shades of Grey was at that time, but she does now. Bless her.
Oh, 50 Shades of Grey. I know that's another one. I remember, like, I was in a book club at the time, and I can't remember which one of us put the book in. So we put it in, and obviously we're like, you know, get together at the end of the month and had a chat about it.
Yeah.
And it was one of these things. I've never read anything like that before. And like it was like such a like strange book for me, but like I did quite enjoy it right enough. But I have to say I had to Google a lot of of things that was mentioned, and then I was like, oh, I really wish I had Googled that now, you know. I'm so naive in some ways, but I remember going to see the film of it as well with my friend, and she patted me on the shoulder at one point, and she's like, I feel really weird being here at the cinema watching this film with you. It's just weird. And I was like, yeah, isn't it weird? But like, it was just like, it was quite a, yeah, I don't even know how to describe 50 Shades of Grey, but
Yeah.
apparently, I will say this, apparently it was based, it started as Twilight fan fiction, like obviously
Oh,
like
yes.
a
I think I
different
did
road.
hear that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting.
And I can sort of see it, the whole sort of Edward and Bella, but just, you know, the
Yeah.
spicy version. So
Oh, I love that. Um, just catch up on some of the comments. And Larissa said we had one as a kid. I think that this is Forever. I think by Judy Blume. I remember thinking the cover seemed so scandalous. Yes, definitely.
Love a scandalous book. So good, so good.
Yeah. Karen said, yeah, I used to go WH Smith. So if there's any Americans watching, WH Smith was like, well, still is a bookshop here in the UK. Well, more than a bookshop. You can get nearly everything there, apart from food.
Yeah, it's a sort of
you can get
one-stop shop,
snacks.
really, isn't it? Yeah, you can get snacks and you can get lovely candles and presents and gifts. It's good.
Matthew says you're not stalking when I mentioned about stalking these people. You're assimilating history, yeah.
That's a perfect way to put it, absolutely.
And Matthew said, I certainly do it with things I'm interested in too. Yeah, definitely. Karen said the theme tune to Sweet Valley is just, drum beats. Larissa was saying John Menzies, yeah. And what was the other one back in the day? Otticas. That was before Waterstones, right? Otticas. I don't know whether that was in Scotland. I'm not sure, but I think that was pre-Waterstones.
Feels vaguely familiar, but I don't. Because I like really have only small town history. As I say, the only bookshop was an independent one.
Yeah.
And I know that I don't even think we didn't have a John Menzies in Montrose. We had a Woolworths.
Oh,
and do you remember Woolies, yeah. But I can't even remember did they sell books in Woolies? I can't remember.
I can't remember. I just remember the pick and mix. And
yeah,
going
that was
there
good.
for like all the latest like tapes. You know,
I remember definitely getting music from there for sure.
Do you remember when you used to go and buy like the single, like, you know, somebody had
like
a new single out and you just go and buy it on a tape and then you could just listen to the same song and then turn the tape over and listen to like the new track or whatever.
Yeah.
Oh, I miss those days.
Oh, I know, I miss those days. I remember when you used to get like the mini LPs as singles, like before it was even tapes. And I remember the first one I ever had was Lucky Star by Madonna.
Oh, love that.
I was obsessed with Madonna. Like I was like, I just wanted to listen to all of her music.
Yeah.
And then I think she got banned in my house for a little while. And then it was another one that I had to be a bit sneaky about, you know. I can't remember the first ever tape that I had. It may have been, I do. It was Jason Donovan. That's so embarrassing, but Jason Donovan. Yeah, the big greatest hits or something. And it had a red cover. I remember that. And then the first ever, when they brought CDs out and then you got your CD singles, the first ever CD single I had was Will Smith, Boom Shake the Room.
I love that.
Do you remember what yours was?
So my first tape, this is going to show my age, but my first tape was Kylie Minogue. So her very first album, you know, with the iconic cover with the hat and obviously the hair coming out of the top. So that was my first tape. My first CD, I'm not sure. I'm not sure what that would have been, CD, because I remember obviously as I got into a teen, I got more into rock music and things. So I remember buying like Nirvana on tape. So I want to say maybe it was like Nirvana, but it was probably something like E17 or something cheesy. Yeah, I wish I could remember that. I'll have to ask my mum, see if she remembers. Because she used to take me to like we used to have like an independent store that used to sell like the CDs and stuff.
Yeah.
And she used to take me there every now and again just to get a new CD. So I used to find all the rare ones. I couldn't find in Woolworths, yeah.
I never got into cooler music until I was like in my late teens, and then I was like, it was Def Leppard and Foo Fighters and Nirvana as well, and Pearl Jam and stuff like that. But it was a wee bit later on, once I kind of moved away from Montrose, and it's sort of like, I'm not in a small town anymore, you know, what does a big city have to offer? It was good.
Oh, love that. Matthew Stargazer, he was telling you off. Full disclosure, librarian here. Tisk, tisk, tisk. Shelley.
I am sorry. I do give a lot of money to charity. I try to make up for my previous past history mistakes. It wasn't intentional, it wasn't, and then, as I say, I just realised, oops, I've not taken that back. I'm sorry.
Atia said, "Love the TV show." Larissa's singing the lyrics to Sweet Valley, which now I've got in my head again. Sharon Weir said, "I still have a John Menzies carrier bag. Absolutely no idea why." That's awesome. That's
It's
treasure.
so cool. Keep
That's
that.
treasure.
That is treasure.
Our Cozy Liverpool home said, "Point Horror and Jacqueline Wilson books were my childhood." Yeah. I never read much Jacqueline Wilson. I don't know why. She seemed to pass me by. I think when I've read Judy Blume and Burley Doherty books, it was kind of like traumatising enough with some of those.
I know, fair point. Yeah.
Yeah. Miss Booby said they were rare in my hometown, so I think the Sweet Valleys. But then I noticed there was a translated series in French, and they renamed them. They were dingy things from the 80s I borrow from libraries. Yeah. Ah. Kay's Liverpool Home said, "Forever is on my bookshelf." Yeah, Ralph, Sally's saying. Yes. You wait till you I don't really want to say it like this, but you wait till you meet Ralph. Shelly.
Right, I'm honestly going to like go and buy it like tonight after talking about it. I'll have to.
When you read it, you'll be like, "Why did Shelley say that?"
I'll just remember. I'll not forget that name. I'll not forget the name.
Yeah. You won't forget it when you read it. Larissa said, "Didn't read Judy Blume to my 30s. Love her." Yeah, it's brilliant. Melina said, "My school used 'Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret' to tell us girls about periods at the end of primary school." Oh, interesting. Yeah.
Right, okay.
Interesting way.
Sounds like they were really trying to pass the buck there, so they didn't have to do it.
They didn't have to like deal with it. Yeah.
But like, check that covered,
Larissa said that was a huge reason Jacqueline Wilson wrote the kind of things she did. I'm not sure whether I've missed something, but yay for Jacqueline Wilson again. I feel like I missed out there.
I've seen a lot. I haven't. I can't. I feel like I have read. I think I've maybe just seen Jacqueline Wilson everywhere, but I don't know if I've actually read any of her books. I'll need to get some in and read them because I'm quite liking reading middle grade books because it's good. Because my girls are like 8 and 7, so I'm like trying to really get them, into their books. I'm not quite there yet, not the same way that I was, but I'm working on it. But I want them to read, books that are going to really help them in life, as well as fun reads as well. But yeah, I think I'll check out Jacqueline Wilson. So thanks for that recommendation as well.
And I feel like when Corey was growing up, I mean, he's now 20 next week. But when he was growing up, I did the same. I tried to I let him read what he wanted to read. So whatever's on the shelf, if he wanted to read a horror, I'd let him. I've got no issue. I'm a big believer, let kids read what they want to read and they find interesting. Within reason, of course, if it was really bad, like obviously too traumatizing, then I'd probably just say, just pick a different one. But I always remember Juno Dawson wrote a brilliant book called Being a Boy many years ago, and I always remember Corey picking that up. He was like, "Oh, I fancy reading this." So I was like, "Yeah, great, go for it." And it was so interesting to see him read it because it was all about growing up and things like that. And I feel it did help, and it had a bit of sex education in there and stuff like that. So it was really, really interesting that he picked that. And I always remember, I don't know whether I should say this on live, but I always remember, so me and his dad aren't together anymore, and his dad married someone else, and then they had a baby. And I always remember when his dad came to the door and said, "Oh, just to let you know, my wife's pregnant," and that. And Corey turned around and said, "Well, you should have put a condom on then, Dad." And I was like, "He's been reading this book." I'm so sorry.
That's brilliant.
I was like, "Oh no." And I was going to Corey, "Stop." It's making it worse. It's just the way he just came out and said it. But then afterwards, I thought, yeah, I've done a good job there because at
You
least he
did.
knows
You
from
did.
a younger age. That is my point. But oh yeah,
Absolutely.
at the time I just wanted the ground to swallow me up. I was standing there like, oh God.
But this is just what kids do, though. They do that all the
Yeah.
time, and you're like, oh, yeah, I wish I could just like reverse time for a minute, take it
Yeah.
back.
Oh dear. Matthew says we get so many books in. Sorry, we get so many books in. I presume we mean the library that deal with all different sorts of growing up experiences for young people, and it's so refreshing to see. I wish we'd had them when I was growing up.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. Me too.
yeah. That's why I think, like, for me, I know I keep harping on, but Judy Blume and Burley Doherty. Like, I remember reading Dear Nobody by Burley Doherty, and then just coming downstairs and just crying to my mom, like, Mom, I need a hug, because it was just like,
Oh,
it was just really impacted me. And it was not something that I think it dealt with, like abortion and things like that, but it was really like hard hitting. And that was probably one of the first books I read that really, really made me cry. It was a really good book. I've read it again since I was an adult, and it's still like fully packs a punch, definitely.
I'll get DM me after this and give me the title and everything of that book. I'd like to
Yeah,
read it.
yeah,
It sounds like a
definitely.
book I'd like to read. I feel like I think books that evoke emotion as a teenager are so important, just
Mm,
because how much do you go through as a teenager? You're going through so much. And, I've got friends with teenagers just now and just everything they're facing at school. It's not changed since
yeah,
we were kids.
yeah.
It's worse now. It's actually worse because you've got the social
Mm,
media element, and where you could go home when you were a teenager and you were home and you were safe and you were in your comfort, you were
yeah,
like around
yeah.
in your comfort zone. And but now, people can get to you on social media and they're doing
Mm,
that as well. It's just like, so trying to find coping mechanisms for teenagers nowadays is very difficult. And
yeah.
I really do feel that books are great for that.
Mm.
Um, and they cover so many subjects nowadays. I just very recently read. Have you ever read any books by Cameron Kelly Rosenblum?
No, I've not read
Oh,
those.
she's an absolutely superb author for
Yeah.
young adults. She wrote The Sharp Edge of Silence, which is all about rape culture, and
Oh wow.
it's very like you're just reading it and you're just like, it's so compelling.
Mm,
Very, very good book that she wrote. She sent me one of her other books, or her first book that she wrote, called The Stepping Off
mm.
Place, and it's about suicide. It's about a girl who commits suicide, and it's about how her friends cope throughout the remaining part of the story. And it absolutely broke
Oh
me.
wow.
Like, I lost a friend to suicide when I was young.
Mm,
I was 14, just about 15 when I lost my friend. And I kept thinking when I was reading it, like, I didn't realise it was actually a real trigger for me reading this book. And I
mm,
hadn't realised it till I read it. But on the same token, when I was reading it, I thought to myself, how good would this book have
mm,
been for
mm.
me reading this as a teenager, and how that would have massively been almost like a crutch to hold
Yeah.
on to. So it's making me realise just how important
Mm,
a book like that is, not just for nowadays, but it would have been so good back then as well.
mm.
And I like to see how things have evolved over time
Yeah.
for kids today, and I really do hope that, I feel like reading's not as important to the youth of today, and I really would love to see a way to bring people back to books. That would just
Mm.
be great if that could happen.
No,
But I've
definitely.
totally went off in a serious tone there, but you just reminded me of
No,
it when I was
it's
thinking about it.
okay.
Going
We
back
need.
to what you were originally saying, the first book that ever made me really cry was My Girl. That was like, I was like sobbing.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
that broke
That
me. That
is
totally broke me.
devastating.
Oh,
Devastating.
so sad, so sad. And it goes on
Oh.
for pages in the book, whereas the
Just.
film it's like a few minutes, but the book's just, oh. Yeah, I remember my brother slagging me off for crying. Why are you crying at a book? Oh.
Oh dear. I know it's been a while. It takes me a lot nowadays to cry at a book. I mean, I read a lot of horror and things like that, and occasionally I do read like different books, but can't remember what was the last book that made me cry. I read a book years ago called Jellicoe Road. I probably read it about 4 years ago. I don't know whether you've heard of that. I think it's by,
No.
I want to say it's like Milena Manchetta or something like that. Or I'll post a picture of it after. And I always remembered, like, it's the way that it's written, like I'd say like the first quarter of the book is really confusing, and I was like, I just don't get what's going on here. I don't understand. And then all of a sudden it kind of clicks into place. So it like flashes between like the past and then the present, based at this boarding school. And there's like a fire that happened years ago and things like that. But I don't want to give too much away because you just go on the journey with these characters. I think it's a YA. You go on this journey with the characters, and it literally broke me. I was on the bus, and like, this is how it got me, because I didn't think it was going to be that sad. And then I was on the bus reading it. Kev was sitting next to me, and I was like, it's like, what is wrong? And I was like, this book, I didn't realise it was going to be sad. So I think that's probably the last book that made me cry. Even though I'm quite an emotional person, so I do cry a lot, but it takes me a lot to get to that point with a book.
Yeah, I don't cry often at books either, but if it's a book that makes you cry, it's one that you'll never forget.
Yeah,
You know,
that's
it'll always stay
true.
with you.
Yeah, that is very true, definitely. Sally put, I think I'm a bit behind on comments, so I'll catch up, but Sally put, Jessica was the evil twin before Margot, so I presume Margot was a character in Jacqueline Wilson. Caroline said, doesn't every book mention their size 6 figures, blonde hair, aquamarine eyes, and matching necklaces?
It does. It says it in like the first chapter of every book. It definitely does, doesn't it?
Oh dear. Larissa
I'm
said
trying to catch up in the comments as well. I'm just flicking through them.
Larissa said the tone of the show was definitely lost on me as a kid. Ah, okay. Same. Atia said same. I watched the show. I was obsessed with. Is it Lila? I say Lila. I'm not sure whether that's how you say it.
I think it's Lila. Yeah.
Karen said I went to the States as a kid and saw a Dairy Queen and got far too excited as I was sure I was in Sweet Valley. Wow, I love that. That's so awesome. Stargazer said putting Babysitter 3 and 4 in my cart right now. Good choice.
Oh, brilliant. Love it.
Atia said watching it now was hilarious. It's on YouTube about the TV show. But totally car crash watching it now, especially Elizabeth's character.
Yeah, it really is, but I'm looking forward to watching it again. I can't wait.
Kelly said the Elizabeth twin was Eve in Dawson's Creek, which was just as naughty. Yeah. Atia said Elizabeth was just so tragic. She was no better than Jessica. It cracked me up.
Yeah, she was like, I felt as if Elizabeth was so self-righteous sometimes as well. Like, she was just as annoying, but like on the other side of the fence, you know, you're just like, oh, yeah, but yeah, you still kept on going back for more, you know, it was like, and the situations, I mean, it gets beyond the ridiculousness, beyond the ridiculous, but I feel like Point Horror does that as well sometimes, and I think it's the ridiculous elements that I actually really, truly love.
I think I appreciate that more as an adult now than I did as a teen, like the ridiculousness of it all, definitely. Stargazer said Jim Carroll had a rough life. That's who made the Basketball Diaries is based on. But made great music though.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. It felt like it was one of those kind of films that felt very raw and real. And it was a really, really good film. I just hadn't realised going in, obviously, what it was about. But it's never left me either, because it's quite poignant in so many ways. And it probably is a good film for teens to see for, you know, what drug addiction does.
Yeah,
you know,
definitely.
When it gets out of hand as well. So it was good for that as well. Definitely.
Caroline was laughing that you thought The Ring was a rom-com.
I know. I'm so special, honestly. I really am. That's what my husband tells me.
Stargazer said, true story, my husband and I used to run a B&B that did meals, and we had a Methodist Church women's book club meet, and they were reading 50 Shades of Grey.
Were
Oh, yeah.
they? That is so funny. I
Oh,
was like, oh, it's just so funny because how everybody is. I remember like when Bridgerton came out, and like so my dad is a minister, so my
yeah.
mum is a minister's wife, and I remember like I saw Bridgerton and I was watching. I was like, oh, what this? And then obviously when it gets to like the fifth or sixth episode, I was like, oh, I was like, I wasn't expecting that for a period drama. And anyway, I went into my mum and she was like talking about Bridgerton. I was like, oh, mum, I don't know if that's really the right kind of programme for you. You know, I think maybe you wouldn't like it. Oh, I do like it. I've already watched it. And I was like, oh, have you? She says, yes, I've watched it twice. And I was like, okay, fair play, mum.
Oh, I love that. That's brilliant.
So maybe these Methodist ladies were just getting a bit of,
Yeah,
inspiration.
definitely. There we go. Melina said Dylan's as well, pre-Waterstones. I don't know whether you had Dylan's up in
Dylan's.
Scotland. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
that
remember
sounds
Dylan's.
familiar. Yeah, that
Yeah.
definitely sounds familiar as
And
well.
Narissa said there were James Thinn's bookshop. Oh, I don't remember those.
Yes, I remember
Mm.
them.
Our cozy Liverpool home said Woolies, many days browsing the CDs in there.
Oh,
Oh,
Willies.
and Narissa, yeah, Our Price. Do you remember Our Price?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Oh, dear. Kelly said she worked in Woolies. That's so cool. Did you still pick and mix? That's what we want to know. Stargazer said cassette singles. I still have a ton. I really wish that I'd still got mine. I really do. And and he also says I still have my old Madonna singles from the very beginning. Wow, that's
Oh,
awesome.
do you know, isn't it annoying all these years later and you think to yourself, we're rebuying all these things that we once had when we were
Yeah,
young. If only we just kept a hold of them, you know?
definitely. Our cozy Liverpool home said my first singles were Spice Girls Wannabe and Peter Andre Mysterious Girl.
Oh,
Oh,
fantastic.
classic.
That's
Uh,
classic.
Karen said I had the record of that Jason Donovan album. Oh, Melina said, oh my gosh, Shelley, my first tape was Jason Donovan, 10 Good Reasons.
10 good, that
Yeah.
was it, 10 good reasons. Yes, so it
Oh,
was.
and Sharon Weir
Oh,
said, I had that Kylie Minogue tape, Shelley, but I just realised it's probably confusing because we're both Shelleys. But anyway, I had that Kylie Minogue tape, Shelley, but someone else taped their tape of it for me. So mine was just a copy. Oh, yeah. The good old, like, taping the tape for someone else. Oh, with like a double. Oh, those were the
I know, and like
days.
how nice was it when you were in your teenage years, and if a boy liked you, and then he would make you a mixed tape.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, that did not happen for me until I was 17. I got my first mixed tape,
Yeah,
and I was like,
I think I was
it's
probably about
finally happening.
17.
It's finally happening.
Oh dear, yeah. Oh, those were the days. Stargazer said
Oh, they were.
my first singles were "Upside Down" by Diana Ross and another one "Bites the Dust" by Queen.
Oh,
I was five.
brilliant,
I was 5 in 1980, but I knew what I liked. I loved that.
brilliant.
Laura said, and then I got a CD that had a DVD of the music video if you put it into your computer, and I felt like a technological wizard. Oh, oh, nearly said Kylie said, Kelly said, my first CD was Emanate. Oh, what did they sing now? Emanate. It sounds, it will
Emanate.
come back to me. Yeah. Oh yeah,
Tell us in the chat
I've got a
what they
little,
sang, just because
it's,
I'm trying
it's,
to
I've
think
got a
too.
little something for you. Kelly did put that
Oh,
after.
oh,
Yeah.
right,
I've
okay,
got
yeah.
a little something for you. Yeah. I even had LP singles Kylie, Jason, and Right Said Fred.
Oh, right, said Fred,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, that was one of those ones you're going around singing it and you're like, oh, what am I singing, you know?
Oh dear. I bet Stargazer in this chat, I know he's from the US, so he's probably like, who are these people? Look them up. We'll educate you. 10 Good Reasons was great. I fancied him so much. Yeah, Jason Donovan back in the day. Whoa, yeah.
Yeah, he was lovely. I loved the whole you know, when because I used to watch Neighbours, I used to go home
Yeah,
and it would come on like they had the afternoon version and then the nighttime version, and I would
yeah.
always sit with my mum and my brother, and I would always like Neighbours every day. We watched it, and it was when it was you know Kylie and Jason, and I was like,
Oh,
oh,
those are the days. And I still get really emotional, right, when I hear that Angry Anderson song, the Suddenly from the wedding. Like, if I
oh
hear it
yes,
just
and
randomly, I
you'll
get
never
really
forget that was their
emotional.
wedding. I know
Because I think it's just so nostalgic.
it
Like, it's just like,
is.
yeah, it just brings back like so many memories. I remember watching that on the telly and like, oh yeah, it just makes me really emotional when I hear it. I'm like a little blubbering baby. I'm like,
No, it just takes you right back to that moment as well. I love how music can do that. Music and smells as well. Smells do that
mm,
for me too.
smells
Just bring you
definitely.
right back.
Larissa said Jacqueline Wilson couldn't relate to things she read as a kid and wanted kids to be able to, which is then why
That's
she
great.
wrote them. Melina said, I came across a lot of Jacqueline Wilson when I was teaching. I have huge respect for her. I feel like I've missed out,
Yeah, I think
definitely, on the
we're
Jacqueline
we're going to
Wilson.
have to go and get some Jacqueline Wilson books after
Definitely.
this for sure.
I
Definitely.
Cozy Liverpool Home said, I need to reread the Girls in Love series so I can read the adult sequel. JW wrote, Jacqueline Wilson wrote. Ah. Stargazer said, I read Helter Skelter when I was a child and then I lent it to my neighbour, my neighbour's best friend, and his mother took it away and I never got it back.
Oh, that's rough.
Oh, whoa. Karen said, my mum was the teaching assistant in my classroom for years, so I had to read all the books and tell her and my teacher if I found it unsuitable bits for other kids. I was the literal gatekeeper. I love that, Karen.
That's good, Gabby.
Oh, dear. Um, a few people laughing at when my Corey story. Um, Kelly said, does anyone remember the Anastasia series by Lois Lowry? There's 9 in total, and they followed her growing up. Anastasia asks her analyst, Anastasia again. I've collected them all. I don't remember those. I'm going to look up the covers and see if it reminds me of anything.
Lois Lowry, what I am. What else did Lois Lowry do?
Mm.
Did she write
It
The
does sound
Giver?
familiar, doesn't it? It does sound
I've
very familiar.
not heard of the other series, but I might be wrong. I'm sure she wrote The Giver, didn't she? And I keep meaning to read that.
Okay, I'm going to look
Can't
her up.
remember. We'll have to look that up, definitely.
Stargazer said, thankfully, our children's and YA section in the library stays pretty busy at work, so at least in our town,
That's
kids
good.
are reading books. That's really good. And Karen says, Shelley, as in me, prepare thyself for fourth wing as you can't escape the emotional damage. So Karen has convinced me to read something really out of my comfort zone and read
Right,
Fourth
so
Wing.
I responded to your story earlier about
Yes.
fourth wing. So
Mm.
I don't really like. I am so picky with fantasy. I'm not really a fan. I'll be honest. In general, I usually DNF most fantasies that I read, but not Fourth Wing. It has got the wow factor.
Oh,
It's very grounded in reality, even although it's fantasy,
yeah.
and that's what I loved about it. But it really, I mean, these characters just take hold of you and don't let you go. And
Mm.
not just the characters, might I add, there's some very also gripping dragons that will not let you go.
Oh,
It's really
okay.
good. Like you will be hooked from the first chapter in,
Yeah,
and that's that. Like I can say that 'cause I know that your fantasy's not your normal genre
yeah,
either, or not your favorite,
totally.
but you have to read it,
Yeah.
Shelley. Honestly, you are gonna love it. It's so good. I haven't read the second one yet because of a few things people have said, and I thought I don't know if I should just wait till they all come out
Mm,
and then I'll read them all together because I hate having to wait a year for another
yeah.
book to come out. It's so annoying, especially when you know there's going to be
Mm,
cliffhangers.
mm.
So I still haven't read Iron Flame yet. But I
Oh,
do have lovely sprayed edge copies of both.
oh,
Um,
nice.
and I don't want to read them because they're too pretty.
That's the problem, isn't it? Stargazer said Paul Tremblay's The Pall Bearers Club. Oh yeah, that gets you. That does actually. I forgot about that one. Yeah,
I've never read Paul
had to.
Tremblay, but he was
Yeah,
on my
yeah.
radar.
I think it's
In
Tremblay.
fact, I'll take that as a recommendation as
I always
well.
say people's names wrong, but I say it how like I read it in my head. So yeah, I think it's
Same here.
Tremblay. I think so. It's horrible. It's so sad. Yeah. So is Kill Your Darlings by Clay McLeod Chapman. I haven't read that one yet, but I love Clay. He's brilliant. Caroline said, I very rarely cry at books either, yet I'm always sobbing at shows and films. Yeah, it takes me a lot with the book. Like anything else, daily life, news, I'm like, but it takes me a while to like cry in a book. Has to really like get me.
I think it's a testament to the author as well. If they can pull that out of you, that's quite amazing.
Yeah,
if anybody likes, sorry, when you go.
Oh, I was just going to say, just really quick, I always remember one of my favourite non-horror books is One Day by David Nichols. I don't know whether you've ever read that, but I finished that book while Corey, when he was younger, was in a soft play. And I was sitting there reading it, and literally I just started crying because of what happens in the book.
I did not read the book because I saw the film and I was like, I'm not reading that book. I was like, I was like, oh, yay!
Yeah, in the book, the ending to me is 10 times worse than the film and the TV series because of the way that it's done in the book. And I just remember sitting in this soft play, like, proper crying. I was thinking, gosh, no one came up to check out if I was okay, but they probably saw that I was reading that book, so they probably knew.
They probably just walked by you and went, okay, yes.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I haven't read it. I think I'm sure I maybe have it somewhere on my shelves, but I've just never quite brought myself around to reading it. But there's an author that I really love, and she's just, her writing is just magical, and she's called Danny Atkins. Have you heard of her?
I've heard of her, I think.
She writes.
I've not read it.
It's like she writes really impossible situations. Her characterization is insanely good. So you like the characters, you hate the situation, and you do not know what you want to happen in the book, but neither do the characters. So you're on the journey with them from start to finish. She writes unputdownable books. If you're looking for a book that, I don't know if you would be looking for a book that you want to make you cry, but if you're in that sort of mood, I suggest Our Song. I just told my friend to read it, and she messaged me at 2 a.m. saying, I couldn't stop reading this book and I've had to go into the toilet to finish reading it because I don't want to wake my family up because I'm crying my eyes out. And I was like, I'm so sorry. But it's one of these books that you just cannot put down. But yeah, if Danny Atkins is one of my favourite authors. I absolutely love her books. And she writes her writing's just different from anything else that I've ever read. I really like it. So read one of her books. Maybe don't start with Our Song, maybe build up to it, because my friend said to me, I think I could only read one of her books a year because it was just a bit much.
Because it is quite emotional. Yeah. Oh, wow.
She's amazing.
I'm going to check her out. Stargazer said, those Methodist women were getting inspired for sure. It was funny to watch.
Yeah.
So Larissa said James Dean may have been a Scottish bookshop. Yeah, Sharon said definitely remember James Dean. I am Scottish though. Kelly said I worked in all the retro places, Woolies and Blockbusters. Kelly, that's like two awesome places. Yeah, Blockbusters. So yeah, those are the days. Caroline said, do you remember taping the top 40 and trying to cut out the DJ talking, finger on the pause button? Yes, I did that so much.
I do. And I also, I mean, how many of us would you would like play the song, stop it, rewind it, so you could write down all the lyrics on your A4 notebook?
That's so true.
Just my life, yeah.
And do you know what else I used to do? I used to record, like, so I was obsessed with Grease 2 when I was younger. I mean, I
Oh,
still
so was
am, to be
I. I'm
honest. And I
totally
used to
obsessed with these
record,
two.
I used to record the music off the telly so I could
Oh,
listen to it
same.
and be
Oh
all
my
cool.
goodness.
Oh dear, yeah,
Oh,
yeah, obsessed.
kindred spirit. And then you used to hate the bit, like I hated it, like when they years later when they brought these two soundtrack out and you had the full song without interruptions.
Yeah,
And then of course when it's the last song and then Stephanie Zanoni just like suddenly
yeah.
stops singing, but they don't do that in the soundtrack. You get the full song. So it was
No,
always annoying because you never felt like you got the full song because of the talking in between.
yeah.
But
Oh,
I still did do that and I loved it.
I used to record songs off the telly. I was used to be obsessed with. Do you remember a film called An American Tale? It was like a cartoon film,
Yes,
and
oh
I
yes,
was
I do.
obsessed with the song that the little fiver mouse sings. The somewhere out there. I was obsessed. So I used to have like Michelle Pfeiffer
Oh,
singing "Cool Rider" and then going into this like somewhere out there on my mixtape.
oh,
Oh,
that is so cute.
those were the days.
Oh, they really, really were. Do you know, see to this day, whenever we have karaoke nights, I still sing Cool Rider.
Oh, hope
Usually
you've
I
got a
end up
ladder.
jumping about. Oh yeah, that's one of my go-to songs. Usually that ends up wine all over my living
Oh,
room floor because I'm so excited, you
I
know.
love that. I love that. Stargazer said I still have the mixtapes too. I've kept all my media. It's probably what led me to
Oh,
work in a library. I love that. That's brilliant.
that's imagine I would love to still have all my
Yeah.
mixtapes. Think of all the cool songs I would have at my fingertips. That's amazing.
Yeah. Sharon said my first single from Woolies was Virginia Plain by Roxy Music in 1972. Oh, what an awesome one! That's
Oh, that's
awesome.
awesome.
Karen said I'm not rebuying anything because I hoarded all my stuff like a dragon. So I
Brilliant.
have all the VHS tapes of Friends from Woolies, all my old tapes and CDs and records, and all my cool toys. Is it a Wuzzle and a Furby? Oh, I love
Oh,
that.
Furbies. I remember Furbies.
Furby,
Yeah.
yeah. And Stargazer said, I've got the Right Said Fred cassette single. Yes! That's awesome. Karen said, Right Said Fred was my summer holiday anthem at the caravan park with my family and bestie. Yeah.
Oh.
Stargazer said, Right Said Fred came out about the time I came out of the closet, and when my dad heard me playing it, it sent him right through the roof.
Oh
Oh, oh
no.
bless.
Oh.
Cam- Caroline said, "Did anyone read the Sweet Valley?" I realised this is meant to be a Sweet Valley chat, but we've gone off on like a whole history of stuff.
Oh,
Did anyone
that's
else?
okay. That's what always happens, isn't
Hello, yeah.
it?
Did anyone read the Sweet Valley adult book that came out? I didn't read it, but
Yeah,
I
Sweet
think the
Valley
fans hated it.
Confidential.
Yeah, I've not read that.
There was things about it that I didn't love, but I was just so happy to be back in the Sweet Valley world. But
Yeah.
I do need to. I've actually got it on Audible. I bought it with an Audible credit. I don't have the actual
Ah.
paperback book, but I'll need to read it again because there's like quite a shift in it,
Mm.
with the characters, which I think was. I wasn't expecting, but I'll
Ah.
definitely need to read that again.
So
I'll definitely buy that if you don't have that
that's
one.
that's set 10 years after whatever the
Yeah.
previous novel was, because there were so many spin-offs, wasn't there? So it's set 10 years after. Yeah, I've not read that. I didn't hear very good things about it, I have to admit. Karen said I loved the Boyfriend Club books as a kid, and they brought in a character with my name and I was so chuffed. um,
Aw, that's nice.
Lois Lowry wrote Number the Stars and A Summer to Die. Oh, okay. I'm going to check her out. Caroline says, oh my God, Shelley, I have the Fourth Wing paperback. I've had it ages. I'm scared of fantasy. That's like me. I'm scared to read fantasy. Definitely.
Yeah, it's definitely a niche market.
Yeah.
It's so weird because I don't really know why I wrote a fantasy book because I think it was because I wanted to write the kind of fantasy that I would
Mm.
read for myself.
Yeah.
So like I wouldn't even say um that my fantasy is nothing like the fantasy out there. So people who love fantasy probably wouldn't like my book, you
Mm,
know. Um, yeah, it's weird, but like I do think fantasies, I don't know, it's just it hits the spot for lots of different people for lots of different
yeah,
reasons, you know.
definitely. Yeah.
And like I mean, even when you go into the bookshop, and like if you go into like Waterstones, for example, I've noticed that fantasy like is classed in its own element now
Mm,
as well, and I think
yeah.
that it should be because it's like some of the fantasy, like Fourth Wing, for example, I would say the characters are, I think they're about 18, 19. Some of them are a bit
Mm,
older because
yeah.
they're going into this kind of training school. So technically, it's probably classed as crossover
Mm,
YA, but it's quite spicy. So
yeah.
it probably isn't something that we'd be getting recommended for teenagers, but
Mm.
teenagers will be reading it.
Oh, yeah.
Um, but it's one of those things. So I think they've just categorised fantasy in its own element
Yeah.
now as
No,
well.
definitely. I mean, I was saying this to Karen, like, I've read, like, I would say very light fantasy. So, like, the Caraval series, um,
Hmm.
I love those books. That's my type of, like, fantasy that I can read because it just captured me because it all goes back to me liking a character in a cloak. We've had this conversation on a previous, book club chat or somewhere along the line. But the way that she writes the characters and the way that it's so mysterious that captured my attention, and obviously sexy cloak and hat. And then
Yeah,
I loved the Sin Eater's Daughter series by Belinda Salisbury as well, and that's classed as
not read that.
fantasy. But for me, that's like even though it's fiction, it's got a historical element to it. So to me, that didn't feel like fantasy. But yeah, so I've got away with a couple of things, but I think it's just I hear the word fantasy and I'm like, nope, not for me.
I
I'll try
know.
and steer away from it. Larissa said A Head Full of Ghosts by Paul Tremblay is fantastic, and Cozy Liverpool Home said the same. I don't think I've got that one. No, I haven't got that one. I need to get that one. I haven't read that one. Karen said there's a guy on YouTube who reads Yaris's books if you need a non-special edition damaged way to read. Ah. Sharon said I got sent Fourth Wing but DNF'd it at 50 pages. Romantasy is not for me, but it's wonderful to see so many people loving reading again. Well, that's just it, isn't it? Some things just
Yeah.
aren't for some people.
I could see that about you, Sharon. It's too. I could see that you wouldn't have enjoyed that one right enough
Mm,
because, I mean, I think like they've now got this whole new division of
yeah,
fantasy with romantasy. So,
yeah,
and it very much is romantasy. I would say very much.
yeah,
So that's like the main theme of the book. So yeah, I
yeah.
could see why you would have DNF'd it.
And further down, Sharon says, I'm a pure horror and terror wench. I love that.
I love that about you,
Yeah.
Sharon. That is one of the things I
This
love
is why
most about
we
you.
love you. Caroline said the one day TV show on Netflix destroyed me. Yeah, well, the
Oh,
book
I don't
is
know
worse.
if I can watch it. I was like,
Oh,
oh, I seen it advertised and I was like, I don't know if I can watch
I
that.
have to say, with the TV series, they did a better job than the film, in my opinion. Like the
Mm.
film is good, but the TV series is better because it's spread out over a longer time period. So they've got more time to play with things, and really showcase it. So yeah. Um, I don't know whether Sharon heard us like laughing because she had to pop off the chat. But our
Oh,
cozy Liverpool home said, I absolutely love Hollyborn. Hollyborn, yeah, she's good. She writes YA and adult with lots of difficult themes, yeah. And
I've
she's so
actually got a bunch of her
mm,
books on my TBR,
mm,
but I've not read them yet. But I just knew when I picked them up that I would like them.
yeah. And I've been to like book events where she's been talking, and she's so fascinating to listen to as well,
Yeah.
definitely. Let me just see. Stargazer said Greece too. Yeah.
Woohoo!
That's why we can't look at step ladders anymore.
Yeah, true. That's a good point.
Oh, our cozy Liverpool home said, Shelley, my mum has a video of me singing somewhere out there. We need to see that.
Oh,
That's so
please let us
cute.
see that. That is so sweet.
Definitely so cute. I think I'm near the end. Speedway Chit said, I'm going to need a roundup list of these book recommendations. Yeah, I'll have to try and do it. Um, if and Speedway Chit said, if I remember right, Sharon is in Devon and our power is flickering or going down. I think she had a phone call, I think she said. Stargaze said, I read fantasy when I was growing up, but don't find it interesting now. I love my horror and my British mysteries. Yeah, definitely. Oh dear. Oh, Shelley, I know we was going to talk about like Sweet Valley, but I was like, oh, we'll just chat for like half hour about Sweet Valley and
How
things like that.
long have we been chatting? Has it been a long time? I
About an
don't
hour,
really
10 minutes. But what a trip down
know.
memory
It feels
lane.
like
I
5 minutes.
know. Oh God, I've just ignited so many memories.
I
But
think
yeah,
we've
so
not even been reliving Sweet Valley. We've just been reliving our youth
just
completely. It's
just
been so
reliving our
good.
childhood. But I think what we're gonna do, so obviously Shelley put up she was gonna reread Sweet Valley this year. So I was like, oh, I'm interested now. I'll reread them with you. So what we might do is we are gonna do, I think, a casual read along. Look,
Yeah.
very casual, very chill. And then maybe like read like the first three books and then do maybe like a little chat like this, just to see what we thought of our reread. Um,
Yeah, I
yeah,
think that's a good idea. So stay tuned all because I think we'll probably just keep it at the moment to one book a month because especially if people are having to buy the books to read
yeah,
them, it's like it would be a bit much if we maybe did more than that at the moment. And then maybe like come March time we'll get together and review like the first three and just
yeah, that sounds
have a
good.
chat about it and talk about all the, because I will say this, so I've obviously read the first one, and there was actually a couple of points that I earmarked in the book, just like some really nice
Oh,
prose. And I was like, oh, I was like really liked that, and I was like,
mm.
I'm gonna, keep that to if I'm ever talking, because at first I thought I was just going to be doing a live chat with myself. So it's really nice to have somebody to talk to. I appreciate
Oh,
that.
no, thanks, Shelley. And obviously, if anyone wanted to join us on the chat, you're obviously more than welcome, or you
Yeah,
can just
that would be
join in.
amazing.
But I think we are probably will just do it like a chat once every 3 months, just so then
Yeah.
there's not so much pressure. Obviously, finding the books as well, but it's going to be these like original. I'm just holding one of the books up, but the original Sweet Valley books with the little. Well, my copies have got like the little flags on the top with the numbers.
Yeah.
So we're going to be doing those. So I think the first three it's Double Love, Secrets, and Playing with
Secrets,
Fire.
Play with Fire.
Yeah.
That's the ones. And also, on that note, a lot of the Sweet Valley High books are on Kindle Unlimited. If you've got Kindle Unlimited, they'll
Ah.
just be there for free. So check that out if you want to read along with us. I'm not sure. I don't think the first one is on there. I think you probably would have to buy that.
Yeah.
But on World of Books as well, they do, if you buy 3 books, you get
Yeah.
the fourth one free.
Yeah.
So, and the Sweet Valley books are always like about £3, 59 or something like that,
Yeah.
approximately. And so you get like quite a good deal on World of Books.
Mm.
And I know that there are some editions where you can buy the first 3 books come in an edition on its own in one book.
Ah.
So
Yeah.
you can get
Because
that as well.
I know some of them. I know these are like the original covers, but some of them do look like. I'm just holding up some. I know you can't see me, Shelley, but I'm just holding up some different covers. Like some of them do look like that. And then you've
I
got
think
these
some of them have got the
super
actual, like the
thrillers.
Jessica and Elizabeth from the
Yeah,
Cynthia and Brittany Daniels on it.
yeah,
But yeah, like most of the ones that I've got are just like the one with the
yeah.
I think this
I've
was the original
That's what I've got
one
quite
there.
a
Yeah.
lot of those ones. And then I also when I was looking through, just really quick, you won't be able to see it, but when I was looking through my collection, I realised I had a superstar Sweet Valley book, which is Todd's story. And I was like,
Yeah.
wow, when did I get this?
Do you know, I've never see the Superstar stories and like the Wakefield Legacy editions.
Yeah,
I've never read those. So I'm actually quite looking forward to reading books that I never read the first time round.
yeah, yeah. definitely. So yeah, so we'll set something up, and then if people want to join in, then brilliant. And as I say, we'll keep
That'd
it
be
really
amazing.
super chill. Yeah, it'd be so good.
Definitely. And
Um,
thank you everyone for joining on and for all the cool
yeah.
comments. It's so good to get to know other people as well. It's lovely.
Oh, and Echo's Liverpool Home said I really enjoyed this chat, and a few other people, Matthew and Narissa and Melina, said they've really enjoyed the chat. Thank you for organising it at short notice. Excited for Babysitter 2 next week. Yeah.
And then I think Sally Longson said that she's got them on Dropbox as well, if anybody
Oh,
was looking to read
wow.
them. That is so
Oh,
amazing. Thank you
thanks,
so much,
Sally.
Sally.
That's
That's so
brilliant. Thank you
kind.
so much. That would be absolutely brilliant if people can't find the books. Then, I'm really excited. And Matthew said, try Libby, the library app for ebooks. If you have it for Sweet Valley High
Oh, yeah,
books, they may
good
have them on
idea.
there. Oh, yeah, it's free and also library. Yeah, definitely. And when I
Definitely.
held the Todd book up, I goes Liverpool Home said, Todd looks like a point horror villain. He does look a bit
He,
dodgy.
I think he could be. I think he could be, definitely.
Oh, well, thanks, Shelley. And thanks to everyone in the
Oh,
comments, like we've
thank
said,
you.
for sharing like memories and taking us on a trip down memory lane. Who
Oh, it was
knew?
just a blast. It was so good. I love it. Loved every minute of it.
Definitely.
Can't
And
wait to do it again.
I know we'll do it again soon, definitely.
Definitely.
And we'll be doing the Babysitter 2 next week. So please come back for that as well. Hope
I'll
Cynthia
join
is
you on for
feeling
that.
better.
Can't wait.
Oh, thanks, guys. And
Thanks
thanks,
again.
Shelley. See you
Bye,
soon.
guys. Good to see
Bye.
everyone. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.